be substantially similar to the answers you would provide today?
Yes.
Can you think of any material changes or update that are important for the board to know?
Actually, I'd like to have the KMZ map because IUB did tell Summit that they had several deficiencies on the farmland. So I'd like to see the parcel since Summit could not identify my property that they want to use the eminent domain on for building an experimental hazardous pipeline, which is only for their private gain, which will not be used for public good. And Summit only wants to build this hazardous pipeline so that they can obtain the federal tax credits.
Okay, so in addition to that, you want to make sure that what's seen on the KMZ is actually what you believe.
What I believe, correct.
Is your land?
Correct.
Okay, could we just pull that up quickly to confirm that, please? Okay, do you recognize generally that parcel there?
Can we move the map up? Okay, to the best of my knowledge, that is the parcel that's identified, that Summit has identified.
Okay.
The only reason I bring that up is because they did have 7 deficiencies, like I said, that the board noted. So I wanted to make sure that that was the parcel.
Very good. And does what's depicted there in that white line, does that appear to be the most recent route to the best of the information you have?
I did not receive any information from Summit until July 25th of this year.
Okay.
I know I submitted a tile map that I received, or that I got. And I believe there's also water lines on the family farm that have yet to be identified. As other landowners have testified that sometimes maps are known to the fathers and they pass this information along to their sons, which happened in this case. My brother was unable to testify to the specifics of a family farm. Since he recently passed away, this has been a hardship trying to get the specific land information. Since he held that knowledge about the specifics to the farm.
And ma'am, along those lines, in addition to your written testimony, which you had attachments, you've also caused to be filed to help the board out a tile map as Exhibit 610. Is that correct?
That's 610.
610, very good. And so what I'd like to do, I'd like to offer Exhibits 312, 13, 14, which are her pre-filed testimony and attachments, and then also 610, which is the tile map.
Any objections? Just to be clear, the second two, well, yes, that's a different way.
There wasn't. I'm sorry.
Hold on. She had attachments 1 through 21. Is that correct, Mr. Jorde?
I believe that's correct. Let me just double check that.
I do have one other clarification, maybe on this map.
Hold on, Ms. Conrad. Just we'll let these two hash it out. We can just take a break and let them be lawyers.
And to be clear, no objections if that's correct. I just wanted to clarify.
Yes, that's correct. Now, I think they also, Mr. Blinsky, put forth an alternative route, but I might be wrong. That maybe someone can ask her to clarify that. I'm not sure if that was filed or not, but yes, attachments 1 through 21 in the pre-filed testimony.
No objection to the pre-filed testimony and exhibits or the hearing exhibit. That's the tile map.
Thank you. With no objection, the board will give it the way due.
Thank you, ma'am. Some other...
There's some electric transmission lines. I don't know if that can get zoomed in.
some other, to follow the procedure, some other folks might ask questions, or even the board, about other easements or transmission lines, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to let them start their questions. Okay. All right, I'll pass the witness.
Thank you. Ms. Ryan.
Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Conrad.
Hello.
I want to ask you a little bit about the history of your farm. I know you said in your testimony that your parents passed it down to their son and daughters. How many sisters do you have?
I have 2 sisters.
2 sisters. So there were 4 of you who shared the property.
Correct.
And the 3 of you now.
Yes.
And what do you plan for the next generation?
We're ever since my mother died, we are cash running it, and so we do foresee the future in the same as corn and beans rotating.
Okay. And do you plan to pass it on to your children?
I do not have children, but my sister does. So.
And is she planning on passing it on?
That is the way that everybody has in their wills, that it stays in the family.
Did your brother have children?
Yes.
And so
and so they do have interest now.
And you also said you grew up on the family land. I noticed there were a couple of houses that looked near the parcel in question on this KMZ map. Were either of those the places where you grew up?
The one to the north is, yes.
So the one directly north of the parcel?
That one, yes.
Does anybody live there now?
Yes.
Who?
I'm not quite sure of the names because my mother sold the acreage to them. Yeah.
Okay. Does any of your family still live anywhere on family land?
No.
And you said you rent out the farmland. Is it a cash rent?
Yes.
And have you had conversations with your tenant about what you're going to do if there are reduced yields, where the pipeline is?
No.
Okay. And what other easements? I think well, I'm going to try to tell us about other easements. So let's get those figured out while we've got the map
If
up.
someone could zoom in there, there's some electric transmission lines. And that was noted in the IUB deficiencies, with Summit. Those.
So can you point out where those transmission lines are?
It would be those.
Okay, so it looks like they run a little diagonally, but generally north-south across the southeastern corner?
Correct.
Okay. And it looks like it just clips a little bit of corner of this parcel. Did you ever talk with Summit about rerouting so that it could avoid your land altogether?
July 25th is the first time that Summit had ever contacted me. Over 2 years, they've never contacted me.
So have you had any discussions with them about?
No. That was one of the deficiencies that the IUB pointed out, that they did not have correct mailing addresses, and so we never received anything.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, board. Mr. Jorde for redirect.
Yes. In terms of never receiving anything, does that include you never received notice of public meetings way back
No.
years ago?
Actually, the IUB postcard came before I received the information from Summit in July.
So are you saying the first time you ever learned that you could be impacted is when the IUB postcard came to you?
Technically, that's the first time they ever contacted me. I've known about this project for 2 years and tried to educate myself, and my brother and I discussed everything. But, I mean, they didn't even know I existed. They didn't have the right legal description up until July 25th.
But I maybe have asked a poor question. What I want to be clear for the record is you may have known about the project. Lots of people know about the project. But when did you learn that you actually owned land that was going to be potentially targeted, as we saw in that KMZ map?
Probably 2 years ago.
Okay. All right. So there were some deficiencies in the meantime, but I just want to be fair that approximately 2 years ago you learned that they were looking at your parcel.
Correct.
Okay. And then picking up on one of other Miss Ryan's questions, in if we could just pull that map back up real quick, please. Do you know if anyone if the landowner to the south and or to the west have signed an easement?
This parcel, he has signed
Okay. And so
to the south.
So did they ever explain why, if the gentleman or family to the south signed, why they couldn't just continue on that path and then connect up and forget the corner clip on your land?
It has never been explained to us, no.
Okay. Would you say that if this had to occur, that would be a reroute that you would request?
That would be a good suggestion to reroute it, yes.
Okay. All right. Based on the limited cross, I don't have anything further for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Conrad. Appreciate it. Okay. We won't be calling any other witnesses unless we can get one done in 4 minutes. But parties don't go anywhere quite yet.